Hi, my name is Peggy Schaffler, and today I am going to share with you on my experience with Vacation Bible Schools. I have helped hold Vacation Bible Schools and plan Vacation Bible Schools for over 35 years, and I want you to have a successful Vacation Bible School. And so I thought some of my experiences would help you in your planning so that it goes a little smoother for you. First, I'm going to share some of my experiences. And then I want to talk about some of the fundamentals of planning for Vacation Bible School. Then we're going to talk about some themes for Vacation Bible School. And then I've got some videos of past Vacation Bible Schools that we've done. And then we're going to give you some music. So with that, let's get started. Right here I have written down some notes so that you can follow along as we go through the things that I'm going to be talking about. I think a major step that we must identify is what we hope to accomplish with our program. I think sometimes people forget that Vacation Bible School is for showing children who Jesus is. It becomes a tool for entertaining and not educating. Vacation Bible School is a tool to create a relationship between children and Jesus. For that reason, I suggest that your lessons be practical with real pictures and props rather than cartoons. After being baptized at 27, I went to my first camp meeting, which is much like a Vacation Bible School. There were 30 or 40 children in my son's class. I had no idea what was going on, and my son didn't either. The only thing I remember from that is when the director grabbed my son by the shoulder because he had gotten out of his seat, dragged him back to his chair, and forcefully sat him down in his chair. They had no idea that I was his mother. I was sitting in the back of the room, but you can bet that I was sitting right next to his chair from then on. A couple of years after that, I held my first Vacation Bible School, and so I was on the other side. I was on the side of the directors. That was about 35 years ago. There were about 20 children. We adults had worked really hard at setting up a good program. I had had my father and my sister cut out wooden crafts for them to put together. We'd run around all over the place. We had everything put together. I drove for miles to bring children that could not otherwise come to Vacation Bible School. And I expected the children to appreciate what I and the other leaders had done for them with good behavior. But they did not. Their behavior was rowdy. They ran around the church. They picked at one another, hollered, complained, snuck into areas of the church they weren't supposed to be in. Because of that, I was irritated, bossy, and short-tempered. They were so bad when we practiced for our closing program, I felt that it would be a disaster. The morning of the closing program, the children acted like angels and sung their hearts out, and all ended well. The first Vacation Bible School that I did in Ukraine was even more disastrous than that. Because it was illegal to hold religious programs in public buildings, we had to accommodate them outside. To accommodate that, the conference had a tent built. It was a beautiful tent, but the first day that we showed up, we were a half an hour late. The tent was not set up, the benches had not arrived, and there were 300 children with their parents waiting for the program. Since I could not speak Russian, and the only man that could speak English was also the game coordinator for the program, he was out in the field with the children trying to keep them entertained while we were getting set up. Because I could do nothing, because I couldn't speak to anyone, they put me by the sound system, and my interpreter said, "Stand by this and don't take your eyes off of it, or it will be stolen." When we were finally ready, they led me up front, and they wanted me to start teaching, but my interpreter was still in the field. Because we were late and I could not consult with anyone, I altered the program to accommodate the time that we had lost. After the meeting, when we sat as a group, everyone was mad at me because I had altered the program without telling them. I was upset. We were over an hour late starting. I said, "What did you want me to do? The program was supposed to end at 5:30. Each evening, we gave out bananas. And you must understand, in Ukraine, bananas are like an exotic fruit. And so when I got the bananas out, the children mobbed me. I thought I was going to be stampeded. I was pushed back up against the tent, and I couldn't get my footing. I thought I was going to fall, and one of the local pastors chewed me out and said, "Look how you have made our children act." I was standing there with the box of bananas held over my head, trying to keep from being mobbed, and he was chewing me out. I said to him in a not very nice tone, "They're your children," and thrust the box of bananas at him, and all the children mobbed him, and I turned and walked off. To make matters worse, the children kept stealing the crafts that other children had made. I learned a valuable lesson. When you have 300 children, you cannot keep all of their crafts and let them take them home at the end of the week. You must take them home every night. You must give them to take home every night. That year, we had 4 programs in Ukraine, and I learned what it meant to be flexible. I thought I knew what it was to be flexible before that, but I had no idea. On the 3rd day, we were again half an hour late, and my nerves were frayed. I had 6 young people that I was taking care of as well that had come with me from the United States. We were staying up late to get the crafts in order, and all of us had terrible jet lag. When we arrived late again, I stepped into the sea of expectant children, and I lost it. I started crying, and I couldn't quit crying, but I had no time to cry, so I just continued to set my program up as I sobbed. Of course, everyone could see that I was sobbing, and when I finally got finished with the program, I looked up, and everybody was sobbing. And I said to my interpreter, "Why is everyone crying?" And he said, "Because you're crying. And the Bible says if someone cries, that you're to cry with them. And if they're happy, you're to be happy with them." I got this picture of everybody sobbing around, and it was funny. And I thought it was hilarious and started laughing, and everyone started laughing with me. And so we went on with the program. But these are some of the things that happen when you have vacation Bible schools. We moved to the next town, and as I went over what I wanted the teachers to teach, they refused to teach the lessons that I asked them to teach that went with the program. And I couldn't get any teachers. Finally, one woman said, "I'll teach, but I'll only teach the lessons I want to teach." And so I said, "Okay, let them teach whatever lessons they'll teach." And we went on with the program. But I couldn't forget, why wouldn't they teach those lessons? So when I had a quiet moment, I asked the director, Anatoly, that I was with, through an interpreter, why would the women not teach the lessons I asked them to teach? And he said, "Well, you have to remember, the Bible is new in Ukraine, and the ladies don't know the stories that you wanted them to tell, and they wanted to tell stories that they were familiar with." So we never know where another person is coming from or what need they have. My husband had to come separate from me, and he came at a later time. It did not take me long after arriving in Ukraine to realize that he had put his suitcases in the car for me to take, and my suitcases were left at home. So we didn't have all the crafts we needed, and we didn't have them in the order that we needed. So we had to improvise in that way. When he finally arrived, it was the next day we were not going to have crafts for the children. And I was so happy because he was arriving just in time. But when he got there, he had no suitcases. The airlines had lost them. So the next day we went and had our vacation Bible school, and we had no craft. So instead, we played extra games. The suitcases came in that day, and so the next day we had 2 crafts to do. It rained all day long, and so the children weren't able to have games, and so the craft, having double crafts, worked out perfect. Why do I tell you all these stories? For this reason. When you're planning for a vacation Bible school, do all that you can to make it run smoothly. But be prepared for the worst. And when disaster hits, let God handle it, and don't get upset. You cannot control life, and you cannot control all the things that Satan throws your way, especially during Vacation Bible School. But at no time let your anger and frustration control you, or you may lose souls. Satan does not want even one of these young souls to be saved. If he can get us to be hateful to one another, or in some way show an ugly side, that might be all it takes for young people to say, I don't want to go back there. Remember that you are not only showing Jesus to the children, you are showing Jesus to your workers, to the parents, to those that are standing far off. In Ukraine, when they need help, they just holler out, and anybody who's within hollering comes to help them. You're also showing Jesus to those people. The most valuable lesson I have learned in all of my years working with children is that if I want them to love Jesus and find out that He is their Savior, I have to represent Him at all times. If your Vacation Bible School flops, likely you will be the only one that knows it flopped. Certainly the children will not know unless you get irritated and short-tempered with them. Highly likely, all they will remember about your Vacation Bible School is how they were treated, and that is what will draw them or turn them away from Jesus. So when planning for a Vacation Bible School, the first thing that you need to do is to remember to ask the church to pray. Many times we spend a lot of time in prayer whenever we have an adult meeting, but we forget to pray whenever it's Vacation Bible School. These meetings are just as important as the adult meetings. I believe that every theme should center around Jesus. I've never had any controversy centering the theme around Jesus and who He is. Most people know who Jesus is, and they haven't come if they don't accept Jesus, and so teach about Jesus. We don't need to teach them anything else. All they need to know is Jesus. So you need to pray about your theme and come up with a theme. Once you get your theme, then you can make your lessons around your theme. And in the end, I've got 3 themes around Jesus that I think that you can plan around. And I'll show those to you later. And I'll eventually get to the materials and how you can get those materials. And I want you to know that Satan will throw everything at you that he can at a Vacation Bible School, just like he does in any program, because he doesn't want anyone to really learn who Jesus is. One time when I had a very difficult time and I was ready to walk away from Vacation Bible School, walk away from the church, I'd had all I could take, my husband said to me, and he's a very gentle man, and he said, "Don't you know that's what Satan wants you to do? Don't you know that if you weren't doing something right, he wouldn't be giving you such a hard time?" That was all it took for me, because there was no way I wanted Satan to win. We need to remember that we need to let God work for us. Many times we get upset. We try to manhandle the situation. If we would just turn it loose to Jesus, He would take control of it and work it out for us. I find one of the drawbacks to any church program is getting people to help. We are, as a society, very busy, and I believe the Bible puts it rushing to and fro. Many times when we get up and we ask volunteers, people feel overwhelmed and think, I can't add one more thing to my life. I find it very successful to break it down into parts, and here are some of the parts that I use. if you have a program leader, and whenever the person accepts the nomination of VBS leader, they're accepting the position of the director. And then if you have a pianist, and that pianist can also be someone who can be a helper, or they can take pictures. You need 3 class leaders if you're having 3 classes. If you have 4 classes, then you need 4 class leaders. 2 to 3 helpers. You need a craft leader, a game leader, and a lesson leader. And we're going to go through these and break them down for you. The pianist can often be a retired person that doesn't have to deal with the children. It doesn't have to be if you have someone that's younger and can participate, but we've always found an older person because they feel very comfortable playing the piano if they don't have to run around after the children. The class leaders are going to be responsible for the children all the time. They're going to sit with the children in the beginning of the program. We're going to divide them up into classes. They'll sit with their children in their class in the beginning of the program when the director is leading out. They will take their children to the craft table. They'll take their children to the refreshment table. They'll take their children out to games. They will be with the children all the time, so the children are not left to run, but they have someone who is going with them to each station to help them find their way so that they're comfortable and no one gets lost. Usually we have classes. The junior class is 13 to 15, the primary class is 9 to 12, and the kindergarten class is 4 to 8. But a lot of times these parents have younger children. I always let them participate if the parents stay, and if you have enough of them, then you might want a 4th class having those cradle-rolled children and have a class prepared for them as well. Your helpers need to understand that they don't have to lead. This is a position for a person who doesn't want to be the leader, just wants to be a helper, wants to tag along. Sometimes you move them to the craft area, sometimes you move them to the refreshment area or the game area, but they're floaters and they can just float around and do whatever you need them to do. The craft leader is going to set up a table and have crafts for different ages. So she'll come up with crafts for 3 different age groups because the kindergarten are not going to be doing the same craft that your juniors are going to be doing. She will stay by the craft table and the children will come to the craft table and everything will be set up for them and the leaders will stay there to help. The game leader can be, you need to remember to use your early teens because they love to do these things, especially the games. Running around outside, leading the children in games is something that an early teen young person would love to do. The lesson leader probably is going to have the most responsibility other than the director. The lesson leader is going to prepare the room for the lesson. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Quite often I am the lesson leader. And so a couple of times when we had stories about Jesus, one time it was his home, and I just got a piece of, went to the store and got lining material, brown lining material, and I just tacked it up around the room and then just tacked it onto, so it's 36 inches wide, you put it down to the top and then you tack the next one onto it so that it encloses your classroom. You can go around pianos, bookshelves, anywhere. You just put the material in front of it and it really makes it look like a room in Bible times. And then I got some wooden shelves and some baskets and the gas lantern. It doesn't have to be expensive, and just to make it look really homey and like in Bible times. And one time I did when we were doing Jesus's ministry, we talked about people who were involved in his ministry and his cousins and the fishermen, and we had when the children came in, we were frying up I have a little recipe for little fish cakes that are made out of noodles that taste like fish, and so their refreshment time was actually when they came into the home, and we told them the story at the same time. And so we had these fish cakes. We had one day we were making bread. One day there's all kinds of things that you can do. And that time I took burlap. I had a big roll of burlap that I put around the room, and I put burlap on the floor, and it really, really gave it a nice feel for the children when they came in. It was like walking in a wonderland back in the days of Jesus. So the lesson person needs to come up with something authentic for the class, for the lesson to be told in about the days of Jesus. Once you break it down individually into all these different sections, and then you go to the person and you say, hey, could you play the piano? And this is the time we need you to play. Can you be the lesson leader? And you ask them for one specific thing, and they think about it. Many times they can do it. Where when you ask them up front, hey, we're going to have Vacation Bible School, all they can think of is, I can't do another thing. But if you give them a little section, most of the time you can find all the helpers that you need. The more helpers that you have, the more successful and easy your Vacation Bible School is going to be. When you get your helpers, put your program together, write it up, plan it out. If you have a helper that wants to make a suggestion, always take the suggestion, because your helpers are a valuable asset, and the more input that they have into it, the more they're going to feel a part of it, and the more accommodating they're going to be. If you can't use all the information or everything that they want you to do, try to use part of it. Sometimes we as Adventists aren't as accommodating and as friendly to church members as we are to new people. And we need to remember that everybody in church has a story to tell and has something that they're trying to struggle to get over, and we're all in it together. And so we need to remember to treat each person with respect. You need to meet with your helpers at least twice. One time we went to a Vacation Bible School. It was a great VBS. They had done a lot of planning in it. They had set it up. It was beautiful. But the papers for the instructions for the teachers was not passed out until they walked in that day. So the whole program was chaos for the first 3 or 4 days. It wasn't until like the last day that we finally got everything lined up so that it went smoothly. So remember to involve your teachers, your lesson leaders, have meetings with them so that everybody understands and knows what's going on, so that it can run as smoothly as possible. Let's see. So now we're going to talk about the materials. So a lot of times people feel like Vacation Bible School is going to cost a lot of money. But Vacation Bible School needs to be simple. It needs to not be a burden, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. Use simple material. When I went and bought the lining for the room, it was maybe $30 or $40, and all the other things I found from my home or borrowed them from somebody else. They brought them, and there was no cost to them. So we can do Vacation Bible Schools usually pretty inexpensively. Try to have things that children can touch. Boys especially like to touch everything that they come in contact with. I raised 2 boys, and I have a 19-month-old grandson. Last week we took him apple picking, and we got this great big wagon that we thought would be so much fun for him to ride in. He didn't want to ride in the wagon. He didn't want to walk. He wanted to crawl under the wagon and find out what made the handle on the wagon go up and down. And so you need to take into account that you've got children that have lots of energy. And so make things they can touch. Make the program so that they can get up and walk around. Some children don't like to sit in seats. They've got lots of energy. And be aware that those that have a lot of energy can actually be used in the program. Let them pass out the papers. Let them do the running. Let them, make things so that they're up and putting things on the board. Use that energy and use it wisely. All children need to enjoy a vacation Bible school. Some will sit quietly, some need to use up energy. Whenever you're shopping, always make a list. Put it in the bulletin and tell people exactly what you need. Be very specific. When we're doing a vacation Bible school, we always do that, and we don't have to buy a lot of stuff. People have stuff hanging around their house. They're just looking to get rid of a lot of times. One year, when we did gifts, we asked people to bring appropriate gifts, and we didn't buy any gifts. We had all gifts from what people had brought, and it was wonderful, and the children loved it, and no gift was alike. And the quality was a lot better than having to go out and get cheap gifts. Sometimes when you ask the church members to bring things, they have a hard time throwing things away, and so they'll bring you a lot of stuff you don't want. Don't take that burden on. If you can't use it, just give it back to them. And if they leave it and you have to get rid of it, then just get rid of it. But try to be specific so you don't get a lot of extra stuff. So we're going to talk about refreshments. I find that refreshments probably is one of the most controversial topics of Vacation Bible School. Whenever I first started doing Vacation Bible Schools, I asked all the elderly women to bake fresh cookies. And I love that. We had a different cookie every day. They only had to cook for one day. That was fine. They'd cook up 2 dozen cookies and everybody would have a fresh cookie. But sometimes the cookies had chocolate in them, sometimes the cookies weren't vegan, sometimes the children were allergic to the different kinds of cookies. So that was a little bit of an issue. I think the year that dessert was the most controversial was the year that we were serving Cheez-Its and chocolate-covered peanuts and all kinds of things, and we had just had a Hans Dill meeting about eating healthy, and now we're serving the children all these things that were questionable. So I find that the best refreshment is just fruit. Beautiful fruit, in-season fruit. Fresh peaches or fresh cantaloupe or watermelon or blueberries. I save grapes and bananas for the last. Everybody has grapes and bananas, and they have grapes and bananas all year. So save that for last if you can't find anything else. And have nice, beautiful strawberries. Fresh strawberries out of the field are delicious. And so we want it to be special for the children. So try to do a little extra special stuff on the fruit. And so when you ask somebody to get the strawberries for you, if you say, Greta, can you go to Allison's farm and get me 2 quarts of strawberries? Or Sally, can you go to Monadnock Berry and get me fresh peaches? Be specific about what you want and where you want them to go so that they have no question about what you want. And if they can do it, then they'll do that. If they can't, then you can, decide what you're going to do. You can ask 2 people a day to bring fruit just in case a child is allergic. Sometimes they're allergic to strawberries or they can't eat certain fruits, so offer 2 fruits, beautiful fruits. This year we had a banquet table. Our theme was heaven, and so we had a banquet table. And you're going to see a picture of that in the video that we're going to show a little bit later. We had beautiful fruit. We had fresh cantaloupe. We had fresh watermelon. We had fresh pineapple and blueberries and cherries. And the children loved it. They just felt like that they were in heaven, and that's what we wanted them to feel like. Giving gifts is a very important part of Vacation Bible School. You want to, and I'm going to show you a little gift book a little bit later on. You need lots of stickers. All your helpers need to have stickers. And you come up with things to give the children stickers for. If you see them helping somebody, give them a sticker for helping. If they come to class, give them a sticker for coming to class. If they're sharing, or they're being respectful, or they're being kind, or they cleaned up their mess, whatever it is, have your helpers to have stickers so they can put stickers in the sticker book, because that makes it all fun for the children. And then at the end, so you're going to give them stickers all during the day. You can have little gifts each day, but at the end have a little gift where the children can count their stickers up, and those that have the most stickers can go first, and let them all choose from the same pile. Don't pick it out for them. Let them go, because they may pick out something that you don't. You may feel like that if they have the most stickers, they should get the most expensive gift, but that's not so. They may not want that gift. So just have gifts all on one table and let them go up and choose what they want. Extracurricular. At the Vacation Bible School, we always have an extracurricular. Those extracurriculars are, one time we had a mother hen with baby chicks. We had, one day we had the 2 baby sheep that they were bottle feeding that came. One time we had a horse. Someone brought a horse for the children to ride. One year we invited a different emergency vehicle each day, a police car, an ambulance, a different emergency vehicle to come up for the emergency technician or that was driving the car to talk to the children a little bit about what they did, so that the children had an extracurricular. One year, the extracurricular, they had Vacation Bible School in an upstairs over a garage in my home, and it was Noah's Ark. And so they would go out and collect things out of the garden that Noah might have collected to put on the ark. So they collected berries, and they picked cucumbers, and they picked green beans, and then they set up a tent, and we had a tent that was set up for them to play in. You're going to see some of that in our movies later on. And then last that we're talking about is the music. They need to be happy songs. Don't be afraid to use the old standbys. A lot of these children haven't sung these songs before, and they don't know them. The easier the songs are, and the funner they are, use hand motions, the more involved the children are going to be. If the songs are hard and you can't even sing them without making mistakes, it's going to make it harder on the children. So use easy, fun songs. We've been going to Ukraine for 17 years, and we have children, and we've been singing the same songs for 17 years. The children don't seem to care about the songs. They come anyway. Last year we went to one village that we've been going to for probably 10 years, and the children were really young, probably 5, 6, 7, and now they're 15, 16, 17, really older than what we usually take for Vacation Bible School, but they weren't going to miss the program, and they came to that program and sang those songs and loved it. So don't be afraid to use the same songs, easy songs, familiar songs, fun songs. This year when we went, we had one town that has refused us all the time we've been going there. This year they came to us and asked us to come and sing the songs and play the games and the crafts with their children. So I want to touch on, we're going to turn the page here for you, dealing with unruly children. When you have a vacation Bible school, quite often you're going to have an unruly child, at least one. Sometimes they disrupt the whole program and they make it hard for the leaders. One program, I had a 13-year-old boy who came with his grandmother. He obviously did not want to be there, but his little sister had come along. So for the first part of it, he wouldn't sit in his chair, he wouldn't sing the songs, he kept kicking his sister's chair to aggravate her, he flopped around on the floor, he did everything he could to aggravate the whole situation. Finally, his grandmother got him to leave the room and go out into the kitchen, which was only separated by an accordion door. So he proceeded to crawl on the floor underneath the tables, scooting the chairs and the table all over the kitchen and making a racket so loud that we could hardly even think in our program. I was trying to figure out what I could do to help the situation, and so finally I peeped my head out the door. I opened the accordion door and I said, Clayton, I said, I really need some help in here. Can you come help me? Nope. And I said, well, I have all these children. I really could use some help. Are you sure that you wouldn't consider helping me? Nope. And I said, okay, but if you change your mind, just come on in here because I do need some help. I closed the door. I went back to the lesson. We continued on with the program. And in about a minute, he quietly stepped through the door and he said, what did you need help with? And I set him down quickly with the children. I said, these children need help gluing and coloring. Could you do that? And he said, yes. And so I said, thank you so much for coming in here. When the children come in, you need to have a kind word for every child that comes in. You don't know what their home life was like before they got there. You don't know how stressed out they might be. That little boy, he was about 13, ever after, every time he saw me, he would come to me and ask me if I needed help. And every time I saw him, I told him how I appreciated his help and what he was doing. And he never acted up again. I had him several times after that, and he loved coming to Vacation Bible School. "70% of all communication in American homes is negative." We had a group of people in our church one time that felt like the children, to praise them was ruining their souls. They took away 13 Sabbath, got rid of our Sabbath school material that they felt was promoting this. And we went from 120 members, a bell choir, 45 children, to 50 members and 8 children. Children need to be recognized. They need to be a helper. They need to be a part of the program. They're not just there to sit around. We're not there to boss anybody around. We're there to be witnesses. They need to know that Jesus would have died just for them, and they need to feel his love. I once had a young boy in my Sabbath school who was not a bad child. He just had lots and lots of energy. I had set up this beautiful, it was really of heaven, and it was a beautiful golden material hanging down from the ceiling with a chair, and in the chair we had a big felt Jesus. And every week when I would come, that would be torn up. The curtain would be torn down, or the chair would be tipped over. Obviously children had been playing in it. So I knew who was probably doing it. I hadn't actually caught him doing it. His name was Samuel. So after class one day, I said, you know, Samuel, can you come here? I need to talk to you. And he came in, and I said, you know, every time I come in, this curtain is torn down and the chair's turned over. And I said, you know, I really need some help. Do you think you could help me in being able to keep this looking nice from week to week? And I said, I need you to come in here, and if you see anybody playing in it, ask them not to play in it, and if they still play in it, then come get me, and so we can ask them together. And ever after that, when I came to church, that scene was never messed up again. Samuel took it to heart. He became my helper, and he watched over it faithfully. So when you have children that are unruly, a lot of times they are leaders, and they want to be doing something. They don't want to be sitting. I'm going to read to you something out of education. Christ discerned the possibilities in every human being. He was not turned aside by an unpromising exterior or by unfavorable surroundings. He called Matthew from the toll booth, and Peter and his brethren from the fishing boat to learn of him. The same personal interest, the same attention to individual development are needed in educational work today. Many apparently unpromising youth are richly endowed with talents that are put to no use. Their faculties lie hidden because of a lack of discernment on the part of the educator. And then I always remember in Matthew 19, 13 and 14, it's Matthew 19. I love this story. I thought I had my Bible turned there, and I don't. Matthew 19, 13, and 14 says, so this is the scene. The disciples, Jesus is teaching, and the disciples are his helpers. And the children come, and they feel like the children are in the way, and they're stopping Jesus from doing what they think he should be doing. And so they are rough and angry at the children, and they tell the children to leave and get out of the way. And this is what Jesus says. Then were there brought unto him little children, that he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuke them. Now, rebuking is pretty severe. They were not being nice. But Jesus said, Suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. They are your new recruitment for future years, and they will always remember how you treated them. So now I'm going to stop, and I'm going to show you some videos and some past themes that we've had before.